There you go.
Camera's rolling.
All right, I'd like to call this meeting to order. Welcome everybody. Just to start off, as this is our holiday meeting, first of all, thank you to MSTAR for feeding us today. And second of all, thank you to all of you for doing what you do all year long. I really appreciate it. The providers in our region really appreciate it. I do want to try to keep us under an hour today as an additional thank you to everybody's time. So people get a chance to look at the minutes that Mike emailed out this morning. Yeah, sure. I would like to move that we approve those minutes.
Properly.
All in favor? Any opposed? That motion carries. Correspondences, I have a pile of things here that are just for our approval and endorsement. The files all look like they're complete. I'd like to just do these all as kind of one block, if that's okay with everybody. We have medical director verifications for Springwater Wayland, West Elmira Fire Department, Cohocton Ambulance, Narcan certification for Tuscarora Ambulance, BLS-FR for Caton Fire District Number 1, PAD programs for Armstrong Group Addison in the town of Southport, as well as a change in some of the leadership for Trumansburg. I think those are all the things that we need to approve/endorse. And they all looked complete to me, and I was told that they were complete by the people that handed them to me, so I would move that we endorse those.
Move. Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? That motion carries too. The only other correspondence I have is a PAD usage report, which was community fire and rescue. It looks like they successfully applied an AED, started CPR within 2 to 3 minutes of collapse, no shock was advised. There was no return spontaneous circulation achieved, but it seems like a good and appropriate use of the PAD. So to make you all aware of that, I'll send a letter to the provider thanking them for their good service. EMS program update. You are Brandon today, Mike?
I'm Brandon for a little while. The current paramedic program is holding at 20. They enrolled 20, still at 20. The class just graduated. The graduation was held at the Coop building, and they all attended that. They did their written test. First off, the PSE, everybody completed, and that was done to the national standards. Were you here, Don?
I was not. We had 3 members of our age group here.
That's right. Ed Major was here, and Mike was here. Yeah.
Office person.
Everybody passed the PSE, and the written 9 of the 11 passed. I'm sure the other 2 will be retesting. They were all close, but no cigar. Currently, Smith Sheriff's Office has 15 students. 2 of them are from the Elmira Fire Department. The BAT EMT class started yesterday, and they signed up 40 plus. Don't know if that could be the actual registration number, but they are heavily enrolled. The Elmira EMT class starts in January, and there'll be a refresher alongside that.
Awesome, thanks. Moving on to the BLS protocol update status. The rollout has been slow. Only 3 of the agencies in our region are fully compliant with the online certification. I think, Don, you can probably talk more to this, but the state may or may not be willing to issue extensions past December 31st in extenuating circumstances.
So extreme extenuating circumstances, agencies as a whole that are struggling to meet the requirements December 31st may apply to the state. There will be some notice coming out as far as how that will work. It'll come from the bureau director to the program agencies and then be asked to be forwarded from the program agencies out. But I will stress that the opinion is extreme extenuating circumstances. So if an agency has 1 or 2 people that are doing it, that's not an extenuating circumstance. And there will be a moderately heavy lift of paperwork requirement in order to achieve said extension. So quite frankly, probably would be just way easier for people to
Or just do it. They've had time.
They've had plenty of time to do it, get it done, knock it out, and get updated and move forward.
And if they are not in compliance as of December 31st, what happens to the agencies?
So the agencies will be, if an agency is found to have not been compliant by December 31st, they will be cited with a statement of deficiency from the Bureau, and subsequently have to come up with a plan of correction and go through that process and such. So again, it's just easier for them to do the work to get it done.
Question for clarification, so if there's one provider, you can take him offline and the agency still rolls?
Correct.
Move the three that are in compliance.
Irway, Baldwin, and Tuscarora. So if everybody can please remind their agencies to make sure they're getting this done. Mike and I will send out a letter to everybody as well that is appropriately strongly worded and tweaking. So this is a serious thing. One component of the BLS protocol update that was brought up was that the telereduction is one of the things that's now in a BLS scope of practice, and it is something that many of our BLS providers may not have had much exposure to. Mike and I have been doing some research on good videos for patella reduction that we can share with the providers in our region. He's got a great one here that I'm hoping we can borrow. Play that.
This is the one that Dr. Daly and a couple of other people put together, and it's on the Malrem site. I'm sure Jim's seen it already. But it's kind of one of the taste learning thing. We're trying to get an open copy.
For their support in writing this presentation. I'm a member of the State Emergency Medical and the State Trauma Advisory Committees, and my local REMAC. I'm an employee of the Albany Medical College, and I serve as an unpaid advisor to many organizations. The key to any new procedure is first to do no harm. That should be the most simple tenet in medicine to assure indeed that we are doing our best for our patients at all times. If at any point you come upon a patient who you don't really understand the physiology or you don't understand their presentation, call and talk to a physician if you have any questions, because that way you make sure that you really do keep true to the tenet of first.
Is the patella considered to be part of the
A patella dislocation will always happen laterally, although it has been reported medially, but not as often. Usually this is young people, and they're doing some type of athletic event. Usually it's involving planting of the foot and turning. Only very rarely will a patella dislocation occur with a direct blow to the gate, moving the patella. In a motor vehicle crash or other significant traumatic mechanism, what will more frequently happen would be a rupture of the patella tendon.
So that's just to give you an idea of what they produce. And it's under an hour, the whole presentation, and there's questions. I mean, we can pace this any way we want to pace it. The way it's currently set up, though, this can't be advanced until you've seen the whole thing. And then they have a little test at the end of it. However you determine you want to go through it. But we're trying to borrow this from Dr. Daly and Mel Rems, and or find some other alternative for that. So just kind of show you that this.
Why are we,
Being
doing
added.
patella dislocation?
It's been added to the BLS protocols.
Other studies have shown that BLS can do this, can recognize and do this successfully.
It is now in the protocol, so they're allowed to do it whether you want them to or not, unfortunately.
I'm just worried about.
Please, though.
Could I answer that? It's not always obvious that it's a patella dislocation, it's not like something more significant. But, and in the ED, when we do it, we often, I had done it without sedation.
You monster.
But, I'm ready to punch you when you do that, if they kind of surprise them and get it in when they're not expecting it to go quickly. But, it's better to do it with sedation or pain medicine if possible.
Having done a couple of them, I'm kind of surprised because they actually work pretty well. The theory behind this when it came up at STREMAC was in a lot of areas the state pain management resources, ALS, was limited, and the docs saw this as a low risk, high benefit method of pain management that wouldn't require advanced life support providers to
I think
write
it's
in.
that as well as areas with potentially long transport times, thinking that the longer it was out, the more painful it would be and the harder it would be to get back in.
The first one I did was a 10-year-old girl, and it was oddly, it was like a week after I saw, I've never seen one before, and all of a sudden, there's one in front of me. And the poor girl was in tears on the gymnasium floor. It was an obvious lateral dislocation. And I looked at that and said, well, let me take a look at that, and I just kind of stuck my thumbs out. Hot, and she smiled, and life was good. It eliminated the need to medically sedate or medically manage pain in a pediatric patient, which made me happy. We still immobilized it, brought her into the hospital so the docs could do post-production pros and an ortho follow-up. But I've heard statewide no adverse outcomes from this.
But I mean, I certainly do take your point that whether, the state makes these protocol, the BLS protocols, and we're kind of stuck following them and looking for the best way we can to teach this in a safe and effective fashion for our providers.
I'm just a little surprised.
And Don can correct me if I'm wrong, but as individual agency medical directors, you can allow your providers to follow a protocol or not, correct?
You can subsequently further restrict, sure,
Yeah.
certainly. I mean, it's not encouraged, but I mean, it's not a pressure.
The other educational piece that I think would be great is when Mike and his people do their semi-annual go out and do refreshers with people to actually do hands-on practice doing this. I've had good success with bottle caps under ACE wraps as a method to simulate it.
If you watch the whole video, for a short video, it is really decent. The graphics, the images of dislocated patella versus other knee injuries they make it kind of like pretty obvious as to what providers.
Yeah, it's not difficult if you got a 10-year-old girl or somebody, if you have, a 300-pound girl, I mean, you don't know what's going on with that knee. You know, be really good for you. You know, it would be more serious things. Yeah. Correct me if I'm wrong, I mean, it is possible to flip the patella. I mean, that's a good point.
I think
That
that is a very rare
It's
complication.
rare, it's rare.
And as always, I think the protocol is pretty clear. If you need too much resistance, then it's not working. You're just going to lose it.
I'm not protesting, I'm just.
No.
It's been under ALS for a while.
I mean, it's just as easy to reduce a finger dislocation.
It's been under ALS for a while, and I don't think ALS has done much more patellar reduction since it's implemented. I think a lot of them still just stabilize and transport. I don't think the ones that they have reduced have had any significant complications or issues yet.
I've done 2 or 3 of them and they work just fine, and I've also done ones that I didn't do and popped back in just from bumping around in the back.
And them straightening out their leg when you need
Yeah.
help or something.
Yeah.
But they do seem to feel so much better when
It's
All right, so,
I just, a few comments.
please.
The first is from the Sublime to the because with regard to associated trauma, you're manipulating the knee without x-rays, et cetera, and that has an inherent risk that it's low. So in the ED, you have to take a picture ahead of time, and now you're going to do this in the field, if it's an MBA or associated high.
I think it's for an isolated patella.
Yeah.
It's not, there's no,
Okay.
there's no,
Good.
cofactors.
Okay, so this
So it's just for an isolated fatality
Which
rate.
brings me to my next point, which is, now you've seen somebody and you manipulate them, and they say, I'm all better, I wanna go home, I don't wanna go to the ED. What do you do with that?
You follow the RMA protocols.
Right, and
So,
you know, it's certainly not the only issue. I think the Narcan RMA one is the bigger problem. People who are getting naloxone and then saying, see ya. But, I'm trying to pull up the actual protocol here.
So maybe we get 40 cats.
Nope. I'm not that
Actually,
cool.
a question, is this for BLS protocol update, can we ask questions about just another non-teller issue?
Sure.
So I noticed that it says now that you can give nitro, the patient's nitro, if they've had, Viagra, et cetera, immediately, like, no hesitation. What is the study or data that says that's fine to do?
I looked and looked for a study that said one way or the other. I didn't
don't feel really
find
comfortable
it.
with that, to be honest. Like, cause I looked and I, like, that makes, I would not do that personally. And I don't feel comfortable telling people under me, sure, go ahead.
I looked and looked as well. I could not find a specific study that said it's okay to do it.
Okay,
But then I heard the experts from the state saying it is totally okay to do it.
the base,
Based on, I'm not sure.
okay.
I gotta do more research. Maybe you can help us do more research as to,
Sure, can we clarify who the experts from the state group?
I think it was,
Because it wasn't me for the record.
it was in the BLS rollout,
The CMAC
online.
Yeah.
But the online training for the protocol update
Okay.
that Ryan Greenberg did,
Yeah, 'cause I finished that, I went through the whole thing last
they
night.
specifically say in there, it is okay to do.
Okay.
And I certainly would be curious what their references for that are.
Yeah.
Sure.
Because you heard Heartbeat 2014 is saying give it 6 half
Right.
hours.
Okay, that's cool. I thought maybe I missed something.
So-
Okay, 'cause
The rationale is it wouldn't have come in a protocol update if it hadn't been vetted, approved by CMAC.
Right,
Yeah,
CMAC
so,
rules.
right, so I'm just looking for
So-
based on
Right.
what?
Based
Well,
on-
I mean, you as a doctor prescribe nitro to people,
Right,
and you tell them what?
don't take it if you've had your Viagra, like I tell them, if you took Viagra at night, and you wake up at 4 in the morning with crushing chest pain, make sure you tell your significant other, to notify the EMS guys not to put the nitro under your tongue, like, that's what I do.
If you get 35 docs in Troy to agree to something, there's gotta be some kind of.
Well, I understand, yeah, so that's why I'm asking, like, but based on what? Because, if it's the doc that's the consultant for Pfizer saying that, well, you see my point.
But if you can reach out to Ryan and.
I will.
Not that I'm cynical,
Or,
I'm not cynical.
And so just the protocol for the knees, for isolated clinically obvious medial or lateral dislocation of the patella, intra-articular superior dislocations are not reducible to pre-hospital environment. And they go on to, unsure if body habitus precludes accurate assessment, immobilizing position found. Thank you, sir. I know you had some other concerns about the protocol that we talked about earlier. Anything else that you want to talk
Me?
about? Yeah.
No, that was my biggest
That's a big
concern
one.
based on going over just because, again, without some fluids running, I would be really concerned about dropping some pressure.
as a paramedic, I don't give nitro without it warming down.
Okay, but in this update, it says that you can get, if the patient has nitro,
BLS provider
then
without.
BLS providers
Yeah.
can give the patient's nitro.
I
even if they just
completely
took
understand what
Viagra.
you're saying, I'm just trying to
yeah.
reinforce, so I say,
Yeah.
even as a paramedic,
Yeah,
I try and get the wine before I get the nitro.
But
yeah.
So we'll get some clarification as to where the references came from.
And you probably have blood pressure too before you get them.
I think the theory or the rationale is, anybody who's already prescribed nitro is probably not checking their blood pressure at home before they take their nitro. With probably very, very, very few poor outcomes.
Well, but we give them
So,
instructions
we're
not to
talking-
take it within 24 hours
Right,
of taking
and-
any
and
erectile
this
dysfunction.
rollout
Well, I thought we were
specifically
beyond
says
that
it is
part.
okay to give
Yes.
with, and you could have popped the Viagra and
Viagra,
popped the nitro in the
yes.
next breath, and I
Yes,
think a little clarification would help.
yeah, okay.
So moving on with our things here, QI status update, the state in January, I think, is gonna be rolling out their QI guidelines. But it sounds like the things are gonna be chest pain, whether aspirin is given and a 12 lead is obtained, cardiac arrest, specifically looking at the question of Narcan administration and then RMAs. If trauma patients are being transported to trauma centers, something pediatric related, our stroke and TIA patients having a glucose check, and our stroke and TIA patients being appropriately transported to a stroke center. There is an EMS conference in our region this Saturday. If you'd like to come, you should. It should be great fun. I am speaking, and the other people speaking are much better than me. So. But certainly remind your providers to come, because CEUs are being given to all pre-hospital providers that come. I did reach out to Dr. Morrow again. I'm still waiting to hear from him as to if and when he would like an event thrown in his honor, and if he wishes to remain a member of this committee or not. We had briefly discussed last time whether we should be looking at creating a regional critical care transport medic protocol that might mirror our neighbors to the north. I'm glad that we have both Rick and Jim here. I think your agencies will be the ones most likely to be interested in this program. Do you guys think this is worth pursuing?
It is worth pursuing, but why reinvent the wheel? I mean, like, for our critical care transport protocol, we use the Melvin's critical care transport protocols. I mean, there's going to be something as simple as adopting another region's critical care transport protocol. So I'm willing to offer up one or two of our critical care paramedics to help do that. I mean, I'm not a critical care paramedic, so I wouldn't be able to speak too intelligently on the protocols.
We did make some modifications to it when we implemented it.
Yes, yeah, there is a few modifications, but it's essentially the Melvin's protocol.
And you
And
said
we're basically using the Monroe protocol too, other than maybe the requirements of the FTC.
Yeah, I was gonna suggest that, just a word of caution on that, is NORAMS has, it seems set the bar exceedingly high for the types of transports that historically we've done in this region. I'm studying to take a shot at the FPC exam. That's one of their requirements, is that all the SCT providers are
Yeah,
either
they want.
FPC or CCPC certified credential. And they've tied their RSI program to their SCT credentialing as well.
We don't allow RSI, so.
Well, that's my point. If you adopt their protocols in whole, you may land up with.
Rob, since you've already started looking into this a little, would you mind maybe working with a couple of the medics that are already doing this as to
If any of the other agencies want to, I've already worked with Rob Gruber and Scott Sturmer with their ways and adopted some things, so if the other agencies want, glad to sit down with them, talk to them.
And then maybe
Regionally.
can bring it back to us, something regionally
Yeah.
that might work?
We did make modifications because, like Rick was saying, we don't allow for RSI because we didn't have enough exposure to it, so therefore lack of comfort. First time shouldn't be in the back of an ambulance where you can't ventilate somebody paralyzed. So we can show you the modifications we made and see if everyone agrees to it.
Thanks, sir. The next item on here is actually under both old and new business, because it kind of crosses both. In the packet of handouts that Mike passed around is a potential revision to our online medical control credentialing policy. There's been some confusion, I think, as to whether or not mid-levels, PAs and NPs can provide online medical direction or not. It seems to me from reading the state document, which is 1105, which I think is also in your packets there, that PAs and NPs that are appropriately certified and credentialed are able to provide online medical direction. And our regional policy was only physicians. So if you guys take a look at what I sent around there, it's essentially breaking it out clearly that mid-levels are allowed to as well if they meet the appropriate credentials. It also spells out a little more clearly some of the back and forth we've had about EM boarded versus non-EM boarded physicians and what the particular requirements would be. So I'm certainly open to any suggestions or a wholesale objection to those changes.
There's, what, 2 hospitals in our region that regularly staff PAs, which is Schuyler and St. Joe's. St. Joe's doesn't do medical control.
I heard
Yeah.
that.
I heard that before as well.
So
Does Cornell staff physicians on it at the time?
Ooh, last I knew, they still
They
did.
did, okay.
The problem is with knowing St. Joe's, ambulances will call in for some things every once in a while, let you know you're getting a patient,
Mhm.
and say, by the way, you're getting this patient, you want to do this. So it does present a problem when you have to tell your PA to say, no, have them call on it instead and get medical control from them.
So it's actually Schuyler that brought it up. Is it Watkins Glen Fire who brought it up? Because they were calling into Schuyler Hospital and became concerned because they were, they were talking to some stuff.
So, yeah.
That seems to be a cyclical thing, because every 3 or 4 years we have to go through this
So,
process with them.
I know we
Explain
just,
it again.
sorry.
No, go ahead.
So I know that we discussed it before, but, I mean, aren't we reinventing, like, the stuff that the hospital credentialing does? Like, do we have to, or can we just take work, like, if you're credentialed to work at a hospital, you have all of those?
So we have to set some guidelines for the creation of online medical control physicians. And it has to include, like, I forget what the exact verbiage in here was, but it has to include to educate and credential physicians to provide online medical control. So this policy is an effort to provide appropriate education with the protocol test and the credentialing with, again, it can be, the one thing is if the hospital verifies that they're credentialed there and they've met the things, that is sufficient, provided they've also done the additional piece that we require. But I don't know that it meets the letter of what the state wants if we just say, if you can work in an ER, you can provide medical direction.
Over the years, we've run into problems with locums who come into the area and have no understanding of what the standard of care is or what the protocols are.
Binghamton's dealing with that same problem right now,
Yes.
with 60% of their staffing being local.
What is the EMS protocol examination that includes what?
So it is a subset of the tests that all the providers are required to take.
Okay, so this is a separate test that, where do they would have to do
The ER providers
that? Yeah,
would get it from us.
okay, so you guys have a,
Is it online now?
Beth, actually, to date, Corning is the only one that's fully compliant. Beth just went through with all her people, so maybe you want to speak to them.
Sure, so I have a paper copy that's been handed down to me from 2017, when the protocols were written, so I'm happy to rewrite 2019, since we're entering then, if you would like. We turn in a copy of their license, New York State license, a letter determining that they graduated from an EM program, or if not an EM program, that they've completed PALS, ACLS, ATLS, and BLS, and then a copy of the test to say that they're sufficient.
That's currently was it 5 questions?
They think it's
Uh-huh.
5 questions,
And-
yeah.
Fairly simple, I mean, anyone in this room could do it in 30 or 40
I'm
seconds.
thinking it's like some.
No, it's,
No.
Or something.
Some
So-
places they're not.
Doesn't mean you can't enrich that test, but that's where it currently stands.
That's where it stands, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's based on 2017, so if you're operating on 19 right now,
Correct.
you want to hand them the 2017 protocols.
it does need to be refreshed,
So I'm happy to take that
So-
on.
thanks.
So what if we gave those tests to the hospital and made them do it when they give people their,
Yes,
Which is what
that's-
Beth did.
right.
She administered all the
Yeah.
people.
Right, so why don't we, before they get their credentials to work in the hospital, so then the hospital does the credentialing and they just send it to us, it's complete.
I think that's an ideal way to do it. I think that we haven't had great luck with compliance with that, except in one circumstance. And there's, the matter of, as Beth pointed out, that this is the 2017, and really everybody should be doing the 2019, and at some point there'll be the 2021 that will have to redo everybody.
The only thing is like hospital credentialing, like I don't want to leave that up to our credentialing committee just because it's like one more thing that gets lost and I have to ask them for. I might as well just do it myself. So that- From like a Guthrie standpoint, please just contact me.
Good.
From past experiences, EMS in general isn't real important to the overall hospital administration. Obviously, it's important to you guys that are here.
I think that's changing. That's a changing climate, right? Especially with everything that's going on with EMS right now. So I think people are starting to notice and be more involved.
And less locums, more people invested in the area.
And the EMS fellowships help as well, so.
But the smaller hospitals are seeing a rise in PAs as well. Traveling PAs, they seem to migrate from place to place. But interestingly, even though we do credentialing, Pennsylvania requires the state certification.
Yep.
Right.
You don't get to credential locally, it's done through the state, or through the Commonwealth.
But so, my question to all of you right now, does this policy revision seem worthwhile? Are there changes you would make?
No, there's changes you have to make, because
Yeah.
if the PAs, NPs, et cetera, are going to offer medical control, you could switch this to online medical control provider credentialing. But you're gonna have to figure out what you wanna do to make them identified. And it says you have to have a New York State license practicing medicine.
I think you're looking at the old.
That's the old version.
Oh, okay.
This was the suspected division.
Never mind.
So I think having the mid-level on there is really important, especially for Skylar. And I think I heard that we're now maybe more staffing towards some more single mid-level coverage, so I think it's important. I don't know, St. Joe's doesn't offer it, right, so.
And I think that that's fine if a particular hospital doesn't want to provide it, or a particular agency says, we want to go here for our medical direction. I think that those are fine things to do, but I think
It should be available.
it should be exactly.
As of now, St. Joe's can't provide it because they have almost 24-hour day mid-level coverage and you can't under our current policy.
Right.
So even if someone calls and says, I'm bringing you this patient, this is what's going on, what would you like me to give them? Their reply has to be, please call Army for medical control, because right now our policy doesn't allow them to give anything.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, unless one of the doctors is working there and AMR or Skylar or someone says, we're bringing you a patient who's actively psychotic, your answer has to be, please hang up and try our and bring the patient here after.
Let's do it up. I got a motion.
Okay,
I'll second it.
all right. Did everybody get a chance to read? All in favor of adopting this protocol revision?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, I guess that carries. Fantastic.
How are we gonna get the word out? Because I think most PD physicians don't know that this exists.
that looked at their locks and
Yeah.
that, and
Mark wants to give everyone, just the service line administrators know about it.
Like if you can get a warm body at each hospital to be aware of it, it will eventually reach the right people.
that's common.
That rolls nicely. I'll skip around a little bit to new business, number C, letter C, I guess. The last time we updated all of our policies was in 2017. I was hoping I could divvy up our existing policies amongst the members, and everybody could take a look at one or two and see if you think they're okay or need changes, and we can have a whole fresh slate of 2020 policies, starting with the one we just approved. Is that reasonable? Good. Don, I'll turn it over to you for any updates from the state.
No, things are going wonderfully. We're in budget time, so putting together stuff for certainly the budget going forward into the new year, and that's always a good thing. There was a conversation today. I know we don't have CMAC or SEMSCO dates out for 2020 yet. There's actually a consideration of potentially moving to a 4-meeting year versus a 3-meeting year as we've done in the past several years. There was a reference that years ago there was apparently 6 meetings a year. So I don't think that we'll see that, but there is certainly conversation about that occurring. Vital Signs was great. Thank you to all who had the opportunity to attend. I do want to get on the bandwagon early about awards and award submissions. Our regions to the west have been lacking in award submissions over the years for state awards, and so please start thinking about those who may be eligible for ALS Provider of the Year, BLS Provider of the Year, Nurse of the Year, Doctor of the Year, QA, QI, all those types of things. Agency of the Year, those are big deals. It's important to recognize not only the bad stuff that needs correction, but certainly the good stuff that goes on as well. So please consider that and help us represent our western region here and such.
How do you nominate?
There is a nomination process that comes out, and usually the program agency sends it out. It comes from state council to the regional council, and the regional councils then do have a process, a vetting process. So there is an actual form that is a nomination form, and there's narrative requirements to it. So Mike, can you make sure you send that form out to this group as well, please? Don, what's your normal deadline for the regional council?
We're gonna talk about that here in a little bit.
We are, perfect,
We
look
are.
at that, I love it, beautiful, somebody's listening. All right, Vital Signs this coming year is in Saratoga Springs, for anybody that wants to take a little trip up to Saratoga Springs with us. And hopefully if I get my way, we're gonna have a 5K, so come out and run with me, that'd be great. That's what I'm trying to get accomplished there. The EMS Memorial is coming up in May. We will be adding someone from the western region, looks like this year. It was a 9/11 death recently up in the Buffalo region. And so, we'll be unfortunately putting someone from our regional office up there. And the EMS Memorial, we have a traveling wall now, which is actually in my car. Donnie will have that today, and they'll be at the training for Saturday. So,
Well, my surprise.
yes. And the, I ruined your surprise, I'm sorry.
I was gonna bring that.
All right, and just so that you guys are all aware, the new state CME manual requires entities that wish to participate in CME to be registered through as a BLSFR. In order to do such, they have to register a vehicle. So you're probably going to start to hear of agencies looking to be registered as BLSFRs that may not necessarily have been BLSFRs in the past, because we are including CFRs and other EMT levels into the CME research program now. But we are also requiring them to certify a vehicle, so similar to like an EASV is basically that. So there's a minimum equipment requirement and such that we're working through right now. There is hopefully going to be a policy statement or at least some like Dear Administrator letter coming out on that. I know that well above my pay grade, they have been working many conference calls to get those details down. But just a heads up, you may be getting agencies saying, hey, I know that we haven't been necessarily following the public health law, but we don't want to go to traditional refresher classes anymore, so we want to participate in the CME program. So they say we've got to become a BLSFR. In order to do so, that means we have to have a medical director and all kinds of policies. So word to the wise that will probably be coming. And then last but not least, I just want to throw out there, I know that I'm just gonna generically throw it out there. I have personally noticed, and I know others have, an increase in some mental health challenges amongst our EMS community across the state in the last couple of months that are getting closer to home and subsequently not always ending well.
We had
So-
one last night.
I was trying to generically not go there, but we have had several in our region, unfortunately. And with that being said, I would just kind of throw it out there for an awareness level for everybody. It's, we're all one team regardless of what the letters are after or before our name. And I don't know why we're seeing such a significant increase. I don't recall this many in the EMS community in any time in my couple of decades career at one time period. And it's very, very closely gaining greater than one handful in the last 30 days. And that's not good.
Well,
So,
Stem lost their funding for their CISM or critical incident management.
The region did, yeah.
They're over, yeah, so, I mean, closest people they have is Buffalo.
I think, this really does fall on us as medical directors, that not only are we writing policies, but we have a force protection responsibility in making sure that our providers are healthy physically and mentally for work. And so I really encourage all of us to do some thinking in the next couple months before our next meeting as to what sort of wellness initiatives we can be adopting in our
We have to be
region.
very careful about that though too, because you gotta find out where the funding is gonna come from, because the state told us that we're now no longer allowed to fund those.
So I'll buy anybody any code greens stuff. So if you want code green stuff,
Can
let
you
me
talk
know.
more about Code Green for people in the room that may not be aware of
Sure.
what it is?
Well, are we in executive session now? Yeah,
I can put it in executive.
can
session.
we be in executive session?
Hold on one second.
Just a little fill on while he's doing that. Ryan put out a survey, maybe about a month ago, to find out what was going on with CISM, and of course, we reported on our 3 counties. And I, in the meantime, spoke with county mental health or health department people in the 3 counties, and they're kind of sort of accepting referrals. It's not a good system, and it's got lots of holes. If someone needs to reach out, say in Chemung County, we can contact Brian Hart, who's the county mental health guy in this county, and he'll do what he can do to facilitate things. Tim set up in Steuben County, they're referring through the health department, and Schuyler, the same thing. Not a good system and plenty of holes in it, but
Wait, you mean just through the county mental health?
correct.
Also, but how, do they jump the line? Because do you know how hard it is to get anybody?
So what,
mental
yes,
health help in
it's
this?
not a good system.
So-
And I think that which is why Ryan surveyed it, to find out what's going on and how do we fill that gap.
it's a topic that we're trying to address from
I
a
guess I don't know
state standpoint.
what you guys are talking about.
So
Why don't we,
Are
So
you
let's
referring-
pause for a sec. So, I mean, just to kind of summarize what you were saying, Don, to push for resources towards some sort of professional mental health being available through an EAP program for our EMS providers. I think that's something that we need to go to the state with.
Can I also, if anybody's looked at the Army protocols for resiliency training, you guys looked at any of these? It's, Harvard School of Public Health has also done some articles on it, but the military guys who used to come back with PTSD and kill themselves, it was a very reactive type of approach, almost like what we're currently doing. It seems like EMS kind of often follows the military, kind of lags behind. But now if you look on some of the training that the military is doing, it's upfront training the men and women on resiliency strategies before they go into the field. And it's fascinating because it's stuff that you wouldn't think. A lot of it is like, it's faith-based, it's family, it's meditation practice, it's really intriguing.
They teach the symptoms, right? Like the symptom identification.
Yeah, and they teach them resiliency strategies before they go out. So Navy SEALs are taught how to do meditation practice. It seems spoofy, and then you realize these are Navy SEALs and they're doing it. I wonder, has that ever been looked at, training
So I'll tell you two things. So as many of you know, I'm still an active member of the military. I'm actually a facilitator for that stuff right now. So no, you're fine. So we have gone even beyond that now, where not only are we training resiliency training in advance, but we're taking the old school, let's, do this fluffy PowerPoint about suicide and so forth, and actually engage into real conversations. And we just had a super positive event recently at our unit, several hundred people. So that's a good thing, and I think that's great. And I also want to tell you that the state is looking at some sort of how can we approach this from an EAP standpoint. So I think you're spot on with what your conversation is. That was part of the reason why the thing went out relative to that. And I know that we've just seen some traffic currently while we've been sitting here talking about this. I think that identifying it and identifying, to you guys, obviously being a member of the team, and saying, okay, I have a struggle with a provider. How can we work with that, and how can we help with that? Because I think it's much different than dealing with a standard mental health person, to be honest with you. I mean, it's, you hit the nail on the head, okay? These are people that know how to do things, okay? And these are people who, if they want to succeed, will succeed. And our goal needs to be to obviously identify the symptoms and help stop it in advance, and not just necessarily lock them away someplace, because I don't think that's going to be the proper answer.
No, and so I think, over the course of this last summer and the number of huge incidences that I've had in some of my teams, one of the things that I would share with everyone is making sure that you're going in to do the debrief after some of the bigger incidences, because everyone's showing up, right? All of my units, they're coming out of homes that, that they hear the call, they're going. So everyone's feeling it, or they're sharing in it the next day in consoling each other. And so I think having those group debriefs really can help people recognize the feelings that they're having, and discussing them helps. And then sort of validating, the next steps. So debriefing has been key.
There's also nothing stopping you if you see someone burning out and getting close to the edge of asking them, are you okay, and trying to help them out and set things up for them. I can think of at least one provider that I've had to have a discussion with, and ultimately got him referred to a primary care doctor that would take care of his stuff for him. So unless we don't have an official policy, there are little things we can do on some of them. Some of them are already burnt out and beyond our help with that, but some of them we can nip it in the bud a little earlier.
Maybe.
So,
And I mean, work hours play into a part of this, right?
they
Like,
sure do.
so you have someone jumping from this agency to the next agency to the next agency, and we're paying them less than the McDonald's or Burger King worker that I just paid $15 for, so it's a national thing that
It
we
is.
need to attack. But at the same time, if we recognize that, I've got someone working at 24 at Montrose and then coming over to Valley to work for 12 hours, and so
That's not sustainable.
no, it's not sustainable. So
So I think that this actually transitions really well into our Challenge Coin initiative, which is in the spirit of trying to emphasize the good that our providers are doing and really be exemplary for this. It also plays into Don mentioning us needing to nominate people for state awards. The council has put together a challenge coin that I think is distributed around to people. But this is something that I think is a fantastic idea that's going to come from all of us. So the council will distribute these to physicians, and physicians working in the department who see medics bring in something true, or any providers bring in some truly exemplary care. It'll be recognition from us to those providers, with then a little index card going along with it, so that we can provide that positive feedback to the council, so the council can further recognize that. Rick, do you want to speak a little more about this, since you were intimately involved in its creation?
Well, Donnie as well, but it's really, challenge coins are a military tradition. I was in the military for a long time, Don's in the military, and challenge coins, to me, is something special. You don't get a challenge coin for doing your job well. You get a challenge coin for doing your job exceptionally, or you did an act of distinction, and you get your challenge coin. And the big part about the challenge coin is you received it from your superior, from your leader, and it was the person, it was your leader that was recognizing that you do a good job. And so, who's the leaders in EMS? It's the physicians. So it's only natural that the physicians should have these challenge coins to issue out at the time that someone does something well. So this is something that you have right in the emergency room, and you see a provider, and it doesn't have to be a paramedic. It could be an EMT. It could be the fireman that rode in on the ambulance with them that did something exceptional, and you hand this out to them. Then there's a little 3x5 card that will go with it, and all we're asking you to do is just fill out a few quick questions. And the sample of the 3x5 card I gave you is just a draft. There's grammatical errors in there, and there's some spelling errors, and there's going to add a couple more things to it. But the idea is that you'll fill that out, and you'll either fax it or somehow send it back to the council, and then the council will collect all of these. And then when it comes time for us to start submitting people for the state awards, we'll go through our challenge coin cards, and there'll be a committee, and they'll decide who should we start recommending for statewide awards. Doesn't have to be only one person coming from the council. It can be multiple people coming from the council, multiple disciplines. But that's the idea. It's the idea of a leader recognizing to a subordinate a job well done at the time that the job happens, an exceptional job well done.
Awesome.
So in the big picture, to answer the question about state awards, that's been kind of on my personal radar for a number of years. And we're trying to figure out ways to engage that. Our council's public information committee did most all of the legwork on this project. Jeff Sweet's the chairman, and his committee. As Rick said, the hope is that this is a special thing. The minimum order is 100, but keep in mind, we've only got 100 ALS providers in the region. So they need to be something that maybe only comes out a couple of times a year. There really needs to be not everybody that comes to the ER.
It should be a rarity that I don't want to see it to be too rare to give it out, but it shouldn't be for, just doing your everyday job well. This should be done for something that you did exceptional, that there was some act of distinction that happened.
I'll use an example. We just had a military operation a couple weeks ago. We had 500 people on the ground. There was 2 challenge funds that were issued by the general. So, that gives you an idea, and that they didn't have to, but there was 2 challenge points that were issued by the general.
And I think that by and large, if we start to put a couple out here and there, word will spread. I tasked the Public Information Committee to continue developing some criteria so that there's some sort of a plan for you guys to follow. And I think that the question for this committee would be what your thoughts are on implementing something like this. Usually by May 1st every year, we ask for state award nominations to come in. Obviously, a 3x5 card doesn't hold the amount of information necessary to forward a state award nomination to the state. So if you submit a card, if you hand out a coin, submit a card, Public Information Committee is going to contact you to continue to fill out an awards nomination package. But it may remain to be seen. I get that typically you don't hand out an award to somebody who's usually does a good job, but remember that in the smaller areas, those high intensity calls are few and far between, and sometimes there are people who have, maybe not over 6 months' time, or maybe not over a year's time, but maybe over a couple, 3, 4, 5 years, has consistently been above the majority of the providers that you see. And I think that eventually, as the final criteria roll out, that may count in a little bit as well.
But I think, these will be arriving January 1st-ish, you think?
They've been ordered.
So
Did we come up with the rest of the funding?
hopefully by our next meeting, these will be available, and we can have thought if there's any additional criteria that we as a group think are worth including. I think that's something we can talk about next time. But I do want to be cognizant of everybody's time and try to wrap up the business portion of this meeting. I have tentative dates for next year, February 5th, May 6th, September 2nd, and December 2nd. And I think that's all I had that I wanted to get on camera. If anybody has any other,
I think that's one, yeah, I sent you guys an email about the newspaper article that Steuben County is spending $54,000 to study EMS. And I just wondered if this committee has any input into the guidance of that, or if you guys, I guess, do we know about it, or what? That seems like an awful lot of money for this committee to not know about it.
Our hope has consistently been that the county would take advantage of the regional EMS council and the REMAC as they look for a way forward. They've been quite silent about that. So I'm thinking that Steuben County figures that probably either A, don't need our help, or have a better idea.
but I think they also haven't, you were saying they have a bid out currently and they're waiting for.
I don't think they awarded the bid yet.
The
No, I thought it,
The RFP's been issued, and
Yeah, the RFP was issued.
I believe they've already,
Yeah, last I talked to Tim, they had not awarded it.
yeah, I think they have awarded it.
Yeah,
Yeah, they have awarded it.
We had met with the county exec and the chair of the county legislature, and we have plans to meet with them again, but it was on based on a couple of those newspaper articles where they had some things confused. We're trying to get them oriented. I anticipate we'll try to engage the health department person to join us at the next meeting, just to kind of make, Mr. Wheeler's picture a little bit clearer, because I'm not sure he gets trying to be diplomatic, a clear picture of what everyone's roles and responsibilities are. Is that fair?
I think that's fair. Again, nothing has come to me, nothing has come to the council, so nothing official.
Nothing's come out to you.
I'm sure many people at this table have opinions on this matter.
Executive session.
But I would like to move that we adjourn our business meeting at this time.
Second.
Any opposed? All right.
Dr. Room was opposed.
No.